Good evening, folks, and welcome to the horror call. Who is it? Hell's calling me at this time. Hello? What? Who is this? Is the girl with you? She's very young, very beautiful. Would you like her to die? What the hell is this? Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Gershon. This week we are doing another movie review. This is The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Directed by Dario Argento, starring Tony Masanti, Susie Kendall, Enrico Salerno, and Eva Renzi. So yes, this is the directorial debut of the legendary Italian filmmaker Dario Argento, yes. And there's also an excellent score by the late, the great Ennio Morricone. Rest in peace. Ennio did a few scores for Argento in his early pictures. And I love this one. It kind of reminds me of Rosemary's Baby a little bit. It's like that la 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 la. Oh, very cool. Very eerie. And yes, so this is classic Giallo in every way. And you can see the early influence, of course, of Mario Bava with stuff like Blood and Black Lace and The Girl Who Knew Too Much. And yeah, huge influence, you can tell, on Dario Argento with his visual style and the storytelling. Very reminiscent. And I just think this was a great starting point for Argento. I feel like he went on to do bigger and better things. But this is an excellent debut. So we meet this young author named Sam Dalmas. Who I guess is an expert on rare birds, and he just came out with a novel, and he's in Italy on business, and his book comes out, and he makes a good amount of money, and he's going to celebrate with his young girlfriend, Julia, beautiful young woman. And, he's strolling out in the street one night, and he just happens to stroll and witness an attempted murder. Like so many of these giallos do, someone witnesses a murder, some random person, and they get pulled into the whole thing, pulled into the investigation, and they become very involved, And that's no exception in this case. Although this time it's not a full-blown murder, he sees this woman fighting with another figure, cloaked in black, of course, black leather coat and black leather hat, and you can't tell who the hell it is. And we see she gets stabbed, and she's caked in blood, and she's crawling all around the floor, crying, And we see the dark figure just kind of run away, but not before we see the gloved finger pressing the red button. Never press the red button. And as the guy's pounding on the window trying to help, this door closes behind him, and it's like the strong, heavy fiberglass that he can't get out. Now he's stuck there, forced to witness this woman dying right in front of him, and it's very intense, very dramatic. And he's trying to pound on the windows, and someone does happen to walk by, luckily, and he's like, call the police, blah, 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 blah. Open the door! So luckily the police do come, and they do get her in time, and the woman does survive, but she's lost a lot of blood, obviously. So what happens is, this isn't the only occurrence. There's been several murders in the area. And of course the police, led by Inspector Marisoni, are investigating the matter, and obviously see young Sam as a witness, a very vital witness. And they're going to try to get some information out of him, of course. I mean, who knows, maybe he's even a suspect at that point, you know? So they take his passport away so he can't leave the country. He's actually from America. And he's supposed to go back, you know. Now he's stuck there in Italy, you know, in the middle of this murder investigation, you know. But he kind of has these visions, you know, these flashbacks to the attempted murder scene. And he just knows something's missing. He just keeps getting these weird visions, but he can't quite put it together. And this happens several times throughout the film, you know. And what happens is, you know, the police, the inspectors, you know, they're never quite even close to solving the case. There's never any real clues, you know, that they find. It's just like typical, you know, of these films, these giallos, you know. The investigation never even gets close, you know. It's the one who's directly involved, the witness, that ends up solving the whole thing. And that's definitely the case in this movie. Yeah. So Sam is there in Italy with his young, beautiful girlfriend, and, you know, and she starts to getting scared too, you know, because the killer is picking off these young, beautiful women, and we don't know why, you know. There's just some maniac out on the loose. And we see him right from the beginning. It's just classic Argento. We see the killer's black gloves, and, you know, you hear the weird, eerie music, and the leather coat. And this killer's got some serious leather fixation, you know. I dare say a fetish. But we see the killer lay his bag of tricks out on the table, and he's got all these different knives, this huge long blade on this one. It's almost like a mini sword, you know. But this film is not very gory as compared to some of the other Argento films. We've seen a lot more brutal, but this one is a little bit more kind of implied. It doesn't show the gore so much, but we know what's going on, you know. It's the music that and the tension and the suspense. That's what this is more about than the actual kills, which he would go into a lot more graphic detail in his later movies, like Deep Red and Tenebrae and all that, you know. But this is just a starting point. This one, I believe, is only PG rated, if I'm not mistaken. Because, yeah, there's not a whole lot of blood. There's a little bit. Enough to make it like PG or maybe PG-13, probably by today's standards. And there is a little bit of brief nudity in there, where the killer breaks into this girl's room, and it's a great scene. I love the visuals, you know, and that's what Argento is about, the visuals. And there's this one scene when the girl gets into her tight little nightie, and she's smoking a cigarette in her bed, and then we see the camera pan along with the cigarette as she moves her arm, and then when she moves her arm back, the killer's there in the doorway, and she's like, ah, you know, and the killer, like, rips her panties off with a knife. And, yeah, very intense scene, you know. But again, we don't see the grisly detail, the gore, you know. But it's very, very stylish, as are all Argento's films. And sometimes the style and the substance takes away from the plot, because the plot is a little bit muddled. But yes, we do get some red herrings here and there and some clues along the way. So you definitely have to pay attention to this movie. This is the type of movie you need to see the whole thing, or you're going to miss something. You're going to miss some vital and important piece of the puzzle. Because, yeah, I'd say the story is a little bit more detailed than some of Argento's other films, where it's all about style. There is something to the mystery, though, and you might wonder what the title, "The Bird with the Crystal Plumage," what does that have to do with the story? And it does come into play. What happens is, once Sam starts delving into the investigation himself, so he does start investigating himself, which is pretty damn risky when there's a murderer on the loose, you know. So he starts interviewing some of the people that knew the victim, some of the victims, like one of them was a prostitute, and then one of the victims, he visits the local shop where she bought something, or she didn't steal, but she sold a painting to this local, like, pawn shop type place. And it's a very weird, very bizarre painting of this murder scene. So he's like, he ends up making a copy of that painting and hanging it up in his wall, and, like, you know, he's just baffled by it, but he knows there's something in there, something in this painting that may have some clue as to who the killer is. And he's also thinking about, you know, the woman who was stabbed, and, you know, and her husband, you know, because she is married to this guy who owns the art gallery. And, you know, what's going on with this guy? So he tries to question him, and the police try to question him, and they do think that there is something off about this guy. What's he not telling, you know? And yeah, as the movie goes along, we get different clues, and other women are murdered, you know, and his own girlfriend, Sam's girlfriend, is thrown into harm's way. So while Sam is out investigating the murder, he leaves her alone in their apartment, you know, and she's there at the hands of the murderer. So, and it's a great scene. It's probably my favorite scene in the movie, when the killer comes for Julia. It's just fantastic. The visuals, the music by Ennio Morricone, and the performance of the actress who plays Julia, Susie Kendall, is just fantastic in this scene. So she goes down the stairs to try and meet up with Sam, I guess, and she sees the killer at the end of the stairs, and she's just horrified, so she runs back into her room, locks the door, and she's just absolutely mortified, paralyzed with fear, you know. And the killer's trying to bash the door in, and he's like, "You will not survive, you will never leave this apartment," you know. Scary stuff. And the killer starts pounding his knife through the door very slowly, hacking his way through with the knife, and she's just sitting there terrified, you know. Oh my God, he's gonna get in, you know. So she grabs a knife herself, and she, like, tries to stab through the hole in the door, trying to get his eyeball or something, you know. And she's like, "Ah!" And the visual of the direction in that scene is amazing, you know. But she doesn't get him, you know. The killer moves out of the way, and she's like, "No!" You know. But luckily, Sam gets there in time. She's like, "What's going on?" And the killer just runs off, you know. Awesome tension, awesome suspense in that scene. That's one of my favorite scenes in a Dario Argento film. I was a late bloomer to this one. I had already seen all the classics like Suspiria and Deep Red and Phenomena, Tenebrae and all that before I saw this one. But now, after seeing this one a few times, it's really sunk in, and it's absolutely one of my favorite Dario Argento films. So I highly recommend it. It's got great mystery, it's got great suspense, it's got a great score by Ennio Morricone. It's got a great twist as well, a couple great twists, you know, and you're probably not going to discover who the killer is. I dare you to. You're not going to guess it. So yeah, it's got that classic reveal at the end, you know, who's the killer, you know, you find it out. And it's just great, I love it. So, classic Dario Argento film. It's a classic giallo in every sense of the word. And I highly recommend it. I give it 2 devil horns way up. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Urshan, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared. Folks, don't forget to grab your Sean Patrick Urshan gear and represent the Horror Corner. Also, check out these awesome mugs we have, perfect for your coffee. And definitely check out the Horror Hangout live stream t-shirt and represent the legacy of the Horror Hangout. Check out the link in the description below this video.